Hello, scrappy friends. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video in our series of Borders to Pages. And if this is your first time here, what I do is I take the Creative Memories 110 Scrapbooking Border Ideas and Sketchbook, and I pick a border. Then I recreate the border using different tools and different paper, but I try and keep it pretty similar to what they have, just trying to show that we can use the sketches differently than what they have given us as inspiration. Then I take that border and I create it into a layout right away instead of putting that border in my stash and not looking at it again for another 10 years. So that's what we're going to do today. I picked out a border already. But before I jump in, I do want to mention that I apologize, but this book is no longer available. It was a promotional item a couple years ago. It was very popular at the time and it ran out very quickly. So I do apologize. We can no longer get this book. It's very rare if you can find somebody that has it. But in having said that, I also want to mention that most of the borders in this book came straight from the Creative Memories blog. So if you haven't checked out the blog, I highly suggest that you do. There's just way more borders than they could ever put in just one book. So maybe we'll get a new book this year. We'll see. So I went ahead and I linked the blog and this blog post I'm going to use today down in the description of this video to make it easier for you to find. And in the blog post, you'll find that they give written directions on how to create the border. But they don't use it on a page right away like we do here. Also, a couple episodes ago, I started creating what I like to call a companion piece. It's a piece for my second page and it kind of corresponds to my borders. But when I link these in the description, it's very good to go check them out because usually it's not just one border that they have on that blog post. It's usually 3 or 4 borders at one time. So very worth your time to go check it out. Scroll through the blog. You'll probably find so many more inspirations for borders and for layouts that it'll keep you busy for a long time. So what border did I pick for today? I am right here on page 49. So if you have the book and you're following along, it's page 49 and it's this one right here. It's a fall vertical border, but I'm actually going to be turning mine and making a horizontal border for today. You know what? Let me go ahead and pop this up onto the screen and we can talk about it more. I like to explain these borders in a formula style because I feel like if we understand the formula, we can look at these sketches and we could understand how they created it and we can recreate them over and over. What I see in the book is that they all have a base of some kind, sometimes a wider base, sometimes a narrow base. Sometimes I just like to change the size of the base, but it has a base and the base houses the different layers of the border. Then the layers can be any number. It can be like usually between 1 and 3. Then it's decorated with some beautiful embellishments and you can include your title here in the embellishments, or even sometimes we've put journaling boxes on our border. So you really at that point kind of take it and run with it for your layout. Usually each border has what I like to call a special feature, probably why it made its way into this book to begin with, and that just makes it unique and different from other borders. Okay, so let's look at this one. This one does have a base, and if you look at the colorful inspiration, you'll see that they did a special technique to that. They did some distressing, and we are going to carry that forward into our border today too. Then the first layer that you see is the diagonal slanted paper. That's what I'm going to call the special feature for this border. They put the paper at an angle and it's super cute, just kind of gives it a different look and some new interest to the page. Then they tucked in a border punch. On top of the border punch is another strip of paper. And then on top of all 3 of those layers, I do count the border punch as a layer. And so on top of all 3 of those layers, they decorated with some beautiful embellishments, and we are going to do that today as well. Come on back to my desk and we'll see what I'm going to do today. For my border, I'm going to bring in the new Riveting Collection. It's a DIY home improvement kind of collection where it has papers and embellishment that help to highlight DIY projects or construction projects that you may have done at your home or been involved with. I'm going to use that today to talk about a DIY project that we did recently at our home. So I brought in several pieces of paper from that. Now the Riveting Collection has some beautiful wood grain paper. If you're looking for some wood grain, there's a few sheets in this collection. However, I have already used it. It was the first thing I usually go for, and I have either used it or cut into it. So I did have to go to my backup plan, which is my shiplap paper, and I found this wood grain paper. And then I just brought in some black cardstock for my punch out today. Hey, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is cut our base. And for my base, I'm going to just bring in some blue cardstock. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and pop that sketch right up here on the screen. That way you can follow along as I create the sketch. So the blue is going to be a 2.5 by 12 inch piece. And I am going to bring in my distressing tool like they did. And if you haven't seen this, it's just this also was a promotional item. I think this came out in a secret box not too long ago. So it's always fun to get those secret boxes and see what kind of special tool they're going to have in there. So this was one of the tools, and it has a blade in there, but you can't feel it because it's inside the grooves. And then you just rub it up and down the paper until you get a distressed look. Since I'm doing a construction or DIY project page, I thought the distressing really adds to it. Now I'm just going to rub it along the whole edge. Now if you didn't have the distressing tool, you can also do this with your fingernail and just rub your fingernail along the edge, and it will eventually do it. It won't do as deep of a ridge as I'm doing here, but you'll get the same effect. Okay, so I'm just going to continue that and go ahead and do the other side. Okay, let me show you that close up. You can see how it distressed the edges of the cardstock. I went a little heavy on mine because I want that to really stand out. Okay, so that's the base. And now for the first layer, we need to cut some paper down. This is a great use of scraps. If you have it, mark this one as a great one to use up some scraps. Because what we need to do is make the angled slanted layer that you see in the sketch up there. So I'm going to bring these scraps back in, and I'm going to need 7 of them, and each one needs to be 4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to cut and maybe possibly use the back sides of some of these. I really like the blue one. I'm going to cut probably 2 of these, and I like the back side, so I'm just going to cut them and see what we end up with. So I made 2 of each of these, and since I needed an odd number, I threw in 1 of the backside of the green. So I have the little screws. I think those are super adorable. And then we need to also have a scrap piece of white cardstock, or any color cardstock you want, because we're going to cover this completely up, and so we won't see it. This is what we're going to place our strips on so that we can place them at an angle. And this is 2 1/4. Then I'll take my scrap, and I just want to place it at an angle on this white cardstock. Now this bottom part will get covered up by the top piece that we put on, but not very much. So I'm going to make sure I could either cover that all the way up and come to the edge, or leave a little bit of a space that I know will get covered up. And then I'm just going to lay it like that. Go on to the next one. Place it right next to it, making sure none of the white is exposed. And keep going. And I'm just going to go in order. Now I'll put this nuts and bolts right there, and then start over. It's starting to be exposed here a little bit, so I just want to adjust for that. Making sure that the paper is hanging off of both sides of the white cardstock. Put a little more adhesive. And you really could just decide any color you want. And we'll just do a small amount of green right here. Then we have to trim it up because we want to just keep around the white cardstock. So you can either use your trimmer or your scissors. I think what I'm going to do first is cut this off with my scissors because it won't fit in my trimmer that well. and then bring it back in. I'm going to line up the edge of the white cardstock to the first cut line. If you're not sure, we can bring out our little guide. That looks pretty good. There too. And there we go. Turn it around. Okay, and our first layer is done, and it will go right on here like that. And that's how we get those angled papers on there, by using a piece of scrap cardstock underneath. The next layer coming up is going to be actually the top layer. I'm going to skip the punch out for a minute and come back to it. I'm going to bring in this yellow ruler paper, and we are going to cut this at 3/4 of an inch, and this is going to be that top layer, the thin piece at the bottom. So let's see here. Let's go this direction, and we want 3/4 of an inch, but I do want to make sure I'm not cutting a ruler in half or anything. So this is going to be perfect. This first one here is about 3/4 of an inch. Just want to make sure. I'm going to scoop mine down just a tad past that. So I'm cutting on the pale yellow. There we go. And this is going to come down here at the bottom on top of the angled papers, but so that my blue is still showing through. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one adhered down, because I'm just going to put a little bit of repositionable on one edge, and this will be the edge at the bottom, so that we can tuck our border punch out right in on top of it. For our punch out, I'm going to bring in my black cardstock and my hand tools punch. This is a new punch that just came out along with the Riveting Collection, and it's super cute. It punches out all of these super cute little tools. And let me show you how this works, because what it does is the tools are actually the fallout from the punch. Okay, so there we go. Here's our fallout. You'll see all the different tools. Super cute. Put those aside. But then we also get this border here. It's what I like to call an inset. And if you put it up against something, you can see you still have all the tools showing through on the border. So you can use it two ways. You can use this, and you can also use the fallout. Today, I'm going to focus on the fallout. And I'm going to take and tuck in the different tools into the top of this border. So they'll just look like little silhouettes. Same concept. You can use any punch out that you want and just tuck it right in behind there. Just going in order here of the different tools. And I'm just going to keep going, kind of staggering them so they kind of look like they're, not all just lined up in a row. And there we go. Just have the silhouettes of all the tools on our border. I love it. I'm going to keep all the rest of these. Maybe we'll incorporate those on the other side. And I'm just going to get all these adhered down. So I need to pull them each back out, put a little bit of repositionable tape, and then slide it back in. I'll keep doing that. I think it's super cute. I love all those little tools. Just adds a little playfulness to this border. So the last thing I want to do on this border is to create a little embellishment cluster. And so for that, I'm going to bring in this mat card. I'm going to take out the little pocket. I'm not going to use the pocket for journaling. I'm just going to use it as a place to house my embellishments. So like an embellishment base. I'm just going to fussy cut this out ever so carefully so that I could reuse the card as a photo mat. And that was a pretty easy one to fussy cut. It's pretty big, so I'm going to end up covering up some of my tools that I just put down. I have to keep in mind I don't want it maybe too high up or too high down, so I'm going to kind of place it right there in the middle. We'll save this and see if we can bring that as well as our other little tools over to our second page. Then I'm going to bring in my tray here because it has some of the pieces from the collection that I've already picked through and decided I wanted to use. And I love this one, DIY time, because what I'm going to talk about today is a project my husband and my daughter did over this past summer. And they worked together on a project in our backyard. So it definitely was DIY time for them. I think I'm going to pop this up onto some foam tape. Okay. And probably put it at an angle. But let's see what else we have. I like that it has a hammer here, but I really like this one because they were wearing gloves that kind of look like that. They were using lots of nails on this project. So I think I'm going to be okay with it having a couple of hammers up here in the title. So I think that's all I'm going to do for the border. Let me slide that up. Let's go ahead and do the companion piece that we're going to use for the other side. So what I decided for my companion piece today is I do want to incorporate some journaling about this project, and there's this cute journaling box that came with the embellishments, and I thought this is so perfect. So I want to use this journaling box. I'm going to bring in some scraps just like I did with the border up here. I made these 1 3/4 by 4 inches just so they would be the same. Probably in this case they don't have to be quite 4 inches, but I wanted to be consistent. And I just brought in some of the same colors. I brought in the blue and the green, but I also wanted to bring some of the yellow that I used right here. And my idea is to kind of put these at an angle behind this journaling box. I'm going to bring in a 3.5 inch square piece of white scrap cardstock because I've already pre-measured it, and it's going to fit nicely behind the journaling box. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the border, and I'm just going to put them at an angle. Let me go ahead and put some repo. And then really I just want to decide like how much I want exposed at the top. And this is why I'm saying probably didn't need quite 4 inches. I don't want that much because I don't want it to take up a ton of room on my page. Let me scoot that one over. I do want to get all 3 colors on here. And then like that. And then I'm going to trim that down and adhere it on like that. And there we go. So I just have it kind of at an angle, popping out from the top. And I'm going to bring in some of those little tools that we saved from the other side. And I think I'm just going to tuck them in right like that. And maybe I don't need quite as many, maybe just 3. And there we go. That'll be our companion piece for our second page. Okay, let me get all of the rest of the things adhered down and clean this up, and I'll be back with my base pages and we'll get going on the layout. Hold on. So before we jump into the layout, I just want to ask a quick question. Do you make borders? Do you love borders? And my biggest question is, do you use your borders? And I ask that because I have in the past made borders and put them in my stash. I'll be at a workshop or somewhere, make the border, put it away, and it never makes its way onto a layout. So that's why I was just curious what everybody does. So let me know in the comments. While you're doing that, also, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you if you're liking this series. Let me know by clicking the like button. That really helps me to know, should I continue creating borders? I do this about once a month over here on YouTube, and I also do it once a month over on Facebook. That has been my routine for over a year now, and I like that, but let me know if it's something that you want to continue to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. Now, when I make a border, I then tend to have a very simple page layout to use that border because I feel like all my time and focus has been on creating the border and now the companion piece. So now I want to reap the benefits of doing that and make a very quick page layout. So what I'm going to do here today is put this one right in the center, or I'm not going to adhere it quite yet because I want to see where my photos are going to land, but I'm going to do it right in the center. I think my photos today, this will be a great place for it. Of course, it could always go at the top. This one could even go toward the bottom. You've seen me, I like to put them on the sides. So let's do something a little different and put it in the middle. Okay, and then for my companion piece, it's going to go probably off to the side, maybe the top or the bottom. I'm not sure. That's just something I normally do, just kind of tuck it out of the way. But let's see our photos. So my photos I have today are when my husband and daughter last summer, they built this chicken coop. So yep, we are those people who jumped on the bandwagon and we have backyard chickens now. But they took their time. They created this beautiful chicken coop. Not only that, but we wanted it kind of tucked up out of the way, and the best spot we had was up on this little embankment. It was very challenging because it was a lot of leveling and working on the side of a hill right there. So, and during that time my husband taught my daughter how to use power tools, so I was pretty impressed with that, and I'd run out and snap some photos every once in a while. So this definitely has to go in my album, and so I'm very happy that Creative Memories came up with this riveting collection because it really does help me to get this layout done. Okay, so what I did here is for the top photos up here, I went ahead and cut these down to 3.5 by 5 inches because that to me is a very nice size so that I could get 3 across the page, and it still gives me room to see my pattern paper behind. I think what I'm going to do is tuck those kind of behind my border. Then down here I have these 2 photos. So my husband drew this schematic on his computer first, and then he created the chicken coop, and he didn't print it out or anything. He just did it all by memory. So I definitely want to make sure that that gets put on here. So my plan is to put that one here. I'm going to put that right down here. So see, this page got really full really fast, and my border just helps my photos pop because I don't need anything else on there. So on this page, I have one more photo that I need to print of the finished coop. So it's going to go right up here, and it's going to be horizontal. I know, I just need to get that printed. And then I have three more photos. So I'm actually going to move this up here because I do want my 3 photos in a row down here. So the same thing, I cut these at 3.5 inches, and I just trimmed a little bit off the height, so they're closer to 3.5 by 5.5 because I had more room on this side of the layout. And that's going to be my page layout. Very simple, like I was saying, not much more pattern paper brought into this. Then what I'm going to do though to pop some color is to bring in some matte. So I'm going to bring back in this matte. It's a 4x6 matte. Has that little bit of a slice right there, but once I put the photo on, you won't even be able to see it. So I've trimmed, this photo will be trimmed down to 3 3/4 by 5 3/4 so that it'll fit nicely on the mat right there. And I think I'm going to bring this over a little bit more, something like that. And then for other embellishments, there's just so many cute little sayings and stuff in this collection. It's going to be a hard choice. I want to kind of put just a few more embellishments over here on my companion piece. This, I like this one because they had, that looks exactly like what they had in the yard going on. This too though, they had stacks and stacks of wood. Oh my, it's going to be a hard choice. Could do something like that. That's kind of cute. Measure once, cut twice. That's super great. That's super cute. Oh my gosh, it's a big hard choice. And then I thought this one was cute because it kind of looks like it's a shed, but it looks like a chicken coop. But I think I'm going to pass. I think I'll use those that I put out already. As far as embellishments, I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it very simple. But I do want to maybe bring in some finishing touches. This collection has some cute epoxy, they look like little screw heads or nuts and bolts. So I kind of want to bring in a couple of these. Let's go with the silver. Maybe one right here. And maybe one down from that. Yeah, I like that. And then I want to kind of do something over here as well. So maybe the same type of thing right up here. I think I'm going to change that to gold. Yeah, that stands out a lot more. And then maybe another one like that, just to kind of bring in the same elements. And there we go. I like it. Super quick and easy page, all because I made the borders. So that just shows how quick, once we create the borders, which are super fun and gets us going on our page, then all we have to do is turn it into a quick layout. It's super easy. I think that my border came out very similar to the way they had it in the book, just using different papers, different tools, like literally different tools, and change that right up. And it doesn't even look like the original, but it has the same formula. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you give this border a try. Let me know in the comments if you've done this border or if you are going to give this one a try. I'd really love to know. Until next time, take care, everybody, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. Now, as I go and get this all adhered down, I am going to post for you right here the entire playlist of the Borders to Pages series that we've done. Plus, if you didn't know, I've been bringing over several of them from my Facebook page so that they're all housed together right here in one easy playlist. And then I'll put another video up here for your enjoyment. Okay? Thank you. Take care.